The main event of Strike. Eddie Page versus John Black. John Black, who's again someone who's been on a bit of a rise ever since returning from injury, and Eddie Page, who obviously I don't even think I need to state how well this man's doing. Going in for the roll-up immediately. John Black kicks up at 1. And a roll-up from John Black now. 1. Nope, not even a 1. But Eddie Page obviously being the Road to Glory briefcase holder. But he does seem to be wanting to take his time with it. He's not, he could have cashed in at, just on one of these random weeks. But it seems like he wants to savour the moment, which makes sense for the character. And a suplex from John Black to another suplex. Seems like a tribute paid to the late great Eddie Guerrero. Which would make a lot of sense if that was someone who inspired John Black, considering his athleticism, despite his size. As these two link up in some chain wrestling now. The true test to see which one of you is the better wrestler. Linking up in some chain wrestling and the best man wins. As these two, it does seem like, despite having the history, there does seem to be at least a modicum of respect between the two. It's not a complete blood feud, At least some professional respect, regardless of what they may think of each other as individuals. John Black now going in for the pin, trying to catch the Road to Glory briefcase holder off guard. But Eddie was prepared, kicking out at 1. But you do also have to think that, John Black is someone who's kind of made it clear that as of recently his main sole focus is wrestling, whereas Eddie Page has clearly had his head kind of all over the place at the moment. Having a load of focuses on a bunch of different feuds and friendships and enemies just all over the place at the moment. So could all of that play a distraction into the fact in this match? I mean, to be fair, we did think that could maybe have caused issues for Eddie against Gavin Storm, and he kind of proved that talk was completely unfounded by dominating Gavin Storm, a man who he obviously has personal issues with. And John Black up to his trickery, throwing Eddie Page into the referee. Obviously, Eddie Page still nursing that injury there that he picked up in the backstage attack from Gavin Storm a few weeks ago. MCW medical team has said that he may not need to wear that bandage for much longer, but he is still wearing it as a precaution at the moment, as advised by the medical team backstage. And Eddie Page is going to need to get a bit more offense here if he wants a chance of winning this main event. As John Black gets him up high, twists him back down to the mat as he now stalks Eddie. And he locks in the mandible claw. This is the same move, I believe, that Eddie Page tapped out to in their first ever meeting, in the first ever strike in the triple threat. But this time it doesn't get Eddie off guard. He fights his way out of it. Eddie has said on numerous occasions now that he sees himself as a new man. He's not in the same place that he was in that first week of Clash. Sending himself into a darkness spiral, clearly having some demons he needed to fight before he could rise himself up to the standard that he wanted to meet in MCW, something that he did not go through before that first week, making it seeming to be very clear that he's learning more about himself each and every day with the interactions of those around him. Going in for the pin now, 1, 2, kick out at 2 from John. And John now returning a punch to get him off. Dragging Eddie into the ropes now. And John utilising the ropes again. Someone who's not, against the idea of using a bit of trickery to get an advantage in a match, as we've seen a few times over the course of his career in MCW at the moment. But he gets Eddie Page up high, but Eddie fighting his way out of it valiantly. And a cutter from Eddie Page. out of absolutely nowhere, goes in for the pin. 1, 2, and John Black kicks out at 2. It's going to take more than that to put down the Hollywood King. But Eddie Page won't let up. Manu will give his all in the ring when necessary. We saw that at Road to Glory, and it looks like we're seeing that again. He's like stalking, waiting for John Black to stand before he gives him a shoulder tackle to send him right down to the outside. Goes to drop a knee on the face of John, but John manages to see it coming and then returns with a bulldog. Eddie rolling out of the way in perfect unison. Or perfect timing? I don't know why I said unison, that's not even the right word. Neither of these men too scared to take the fight to the outside. John Black returns some elbows now towards Eddie. John Black lifts Eddie up now into a powerbomb position, but Eddie once again fighting out of it. Every time that John gets him into that position, John looked like he was going for like a diving shoulder tackle there, but Eddie managing to create enough space to have it be misjudged, throwing John against the ropes now. Into a nice suplex pin here. 1, 2, and John Black kicks out at 2. Eddie just taunting John Black now. Trying to get into his head. Eddie is not someone who is unknown to use a mind game or two. And he goes for the pin once more. 1, 2, and another kick out at 2 from John Black. The resiliency from this man is ridiculous. Eddie having to amp himself up more into a neck breaker. Going in for the pin again. Third pin in a row. Will third time be lucky, be a charm. 2, 3, and it was Eddie Page picking up the win against John Black. I assume people are role-playing and that's why the chat's dead. Does seem to be the case, actually, to be fair. Yeah, it does seem to be the case based on what I'm seeing. Fair enough. Just checking. Sean is driving. Sean fucking voice text. Fair enough. That was a really good match. That was genuinely a very good match. And you know what? It does a lot as well for the character development of Eddie. Shows that, you know, he was a bit unnerved in the first week. But when you put these two one-on-one in current standing with Eddie going through what he's going through, that he's just a different... It's like he's evolved. He's, you know what I mean? He's consistently improving his game. Rising and rising. Throwback, Eddie, when you lost like your first 3 matches, and I told you that I think that you're destined for big things, and then you ended up winning the Road to Glory briefcase, and now you're picking up big wins. I bought into you ages ago. Let's just let that be known. Oh no, my John with his family. Yeah, that is true, but I would argue that Eddie has a little bit more. Brother has been going through it and having breakdowns like almost every day.